with Jimmy Dore. Mm-hmm. Now you strike me as a person who is extraordinarily. What I'm trying to think of the most honorable term for this. Like, you believe so much in people. I think you're an extraordinarily would it be good natured. You don't like instigating drama. There's a collection of terms that are valid here, but I think I never get the impression from you as somebody who likes bickering, I guess, with people around you. So it's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of Jimmy Dore. It's putting it very mildly. But I guess I'm interested in your thoughts on this. It seems, at least from my perspective, and the perspective of a lot of people online, I think, that Jimmy Dore has gone very much down the toilet in recent maybe 2 years, but sort of accelerating with time, where it's gone beyond a kind of I mostly criticize Democrats and more towards a just fastidious, borderline conspiratorial obsession with attacking everybody else on the left over anything that he can, which is getting down to like practically Glenn Greenwald territory and like the direction that things have gone. Now, I'm not going to do anything cringe like asking you to denounce, but I am interested in your perspective, right? Like, do you just want to stay out of things? Do you think there's a glimmer of hope? What's your perspective on that? You know.
So I have a lot to say about this, actually.
Yeah.
So first of all, I like to keep my circle tight, and I don't like to let a lot of people in. And what you're seeing now, what's going on with him, is a good reason why. Why I wanted to keep my circle small, and why it was probably a mistake to get close to almost anybody in the industry. So he was a good friend of mine, but also Cenk and Anna were good friends of mine as well. And now all of them have a burning, passionate hatred of me. And that all really stemmed from the fact that I felt like I was dragged into their fight. Now, I never, ever held back in terms of discussing my feelings on the politics of what they would argue about. So all my views were well known about all the different things that they would bicker over, whether it was Russiagate or whatever. But when I was really like, I'm staying the hell out of this, is when it got really personal between them. And again, you got to understand from my perspective, since I know Cenk, I know Anna, I was close with Cenk, and I was close with Jimmy. So when I see it getting personal and ugly, man, I really feel like I'm stuck in the middle now. Any normal person in that situation, like, there was this expectation that I had for other reasonable people that, well, obviously, I don't want to get in the middle of the personal shit, right? Like, if you were fighting with some other creator and I knew you and the other creator really well, you wouldn't expect me to like hop in and white knight for you or some shit, because that's wholly unreasonable, right? Well, I was sort of dragged into giving my commentary on the entire feud between them. I did it begrudgingly, but again, I felt like my hand was forced. And so I told everybody exactly how I felt. And one of the reasons why, apart from the personal side of it, one of the reasons why I didn't want to tell everybody exactly how I felt is because I knew there was no political home for my take. I knew everybody would fucking disagree with it, because my take was actually relatively nuanced in the sense that on the politics of the fight, I agreed much more with Jimmy. But on like the personal side of the fight, Jimmy was being a fucking dick. And so I had to say both of those things. And when you say both of those things, you're going to piss off the Dorites, and you're going to piss off TYT, and you're also going to piss off Jimmy himself, and you're also going to piss off Cenk and Anna. And so I basically lost every friendship that I had in this industry because I told people exactly how I felt about their fight. Now, on the politics of Jimmy, I will say I'm familiar with what's been going on with his channel because I see bits and pieces that pop up on Twitter, but I haven't watched a single Jimmy Dore video or a single TYT video since the fight. I've totally excised them from my life. I literally haven't, spoken a word to any of them since then because, by the way, behind the scenes, you can imagine both Jimmy and Cenk, like, personally blew up at me behind the scenes. And so, I mean, I'm a grown-ass man. If you're going to act like that and that's it. It's over. Like, we're done. So obviously I left the TYT network and all that stuff. But in terms of Jimmy's politics, so what I've seen is there was a time when he would mostly criticize Democrats, and you got the sense it was from the left and it was to improve them. Then, over time it slowly creeped up from like, okay, 70% of your commentary is going after the Democrats, 30% is going after the Republicans. Now it's like 80-20. Now it's like 90-10. And then it got to like 100% of the commentary is just like Democrats are bad. Now, if you have a platform, you have to realize, even if you think it's like, well, duh, the Republicans are bad, there might be some 14-year-old coming to your channel who doesn't think that's a duh, and all they see is you shitting on Democrats. And then you're sort of painting a misleading picture of the world. And then when it really got to a point where it was like, this is just sad now, is when the vaccine skepticism stuff started happening. That's when I saw the things on Twitter where it was like, here's his most recent however many videos, and like 60% of them or some shit were just like doubting the vaccine. And when I saw that, I was like, well, it's a good thing that all my ties are severed with everybody, because I do not want to be associated with that in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, yeah, okay, I follow that. I get that. I want to talk about the politics in a bit, but there was this weird thing where it felt like, now obviously this is inference on my part. We don't know what Jimmy Dore actually thinks or feels, but I followed your videos, or I saw them when they came out with regards to that dispute between Dore, Anna, and elsewise. And it felt like the fallout that came afterwards from either side was very different in the reasons that came about. Because with Anna and Cenk, it felt like they were under the impression that you were holding water for Dore because you were friends, right. Or because right.
And then ask Jimmy how he feels about me.
Well, but the thing is, like with Jimmy, it felt like, because I can sympathize with Anna and Cenk's perspective, because I don't distinguish between political and personal when it comes to like Dore, with the harassment stuff with Anna. To me, it's categorically identical to any kind of advocacy for a policy position, because there is a kind of what would you call it, like a political normativity to what we accept in our spaces or not. So with regards to that, I guess I understand that. Dore felt like he was going in on you just for not fully committing, like it felt like he was calling you like a traitor and a backstabber. And I watched your video, and it honestly seemed like a his engine, the steam engine, is drama and outrage, and just, we're all fuel to that, and just eventually we have to be thrown in,
Well, I think his big contention was that he felt like I didn't acknowledge that he, according to him, was, quote, blackmailed. That when Anna sent that message to Jimmy and was basically like, "Hey, listen,
if you don't say that wasn't blackmail. What a horrible. He was just wrong on that. That was not blackmail."
I will say this though, and this is not in defense of Jimmy. This is just my attempt to objectively read the situation. Don't you find it questionable that the time Anna chooses to send that message is when Jimmy's been beating up on TYT relentlessly on his channel? Now, by the way, a lot of those criticisms that Jimmy had of TYT, I think, are totally unfair. And I think they cross a line and they're dumb. And I mean, one of the things he did is like, "Oh, you're accusing me of misogyny? You're the real misogynist. Look at this video from like 2008 or whatever." And I was like, okay, rolling my eyes, like, come on.
Right.
So without getting into whether or not like the specific criticisms there, don't you think the timing of that was like, yeah, Anna was trying to say, I have this thing I could hold over your head, and if you don't stop beating up on us, then I'm going to tell everybody this.
I think I don't know if I can say it's necessarily coincidence, only that I feel like that's in line with how a lot of Me Too stuff happens, right? Like usually if there's some kind of improprietary behavior, something bad like that, it gets held for some time until there's like a following instigating incident. It felt like, I mean, in a way, especially since, didn't he show like DMs of her beforehand or something? I feel like with respect to that, it wasn't so much blackmail as it was like, you've gotten away with this shit for so long, like that kind of deal.
See, and I think that's a great analysis, and I think that's where like the fundamental breakdown in people's interpretation of this comes from, is that whoever's more like Team TYT, that's definitely going to be their reading of the situation, because they trust Anna over trusting Jimmy, and whoever's Team Jimmy is going to think like, no, they're blackmailing him, and look at the timing of it, and because they believe Jimmy more than they believe TYT. So, and I do feel like some would say this might bias my perspective. I think there might even be an argument for the opposite, but I feel like since I was friends with both of them, it almost gave me a unique insight in that I viewed both Jimmy and Cenk and Anna as like good, kind people who I'd had nothing but positive experiences with. And so when it all unfolded, I that's why I didn't want to talk about it, because I'm like, well, I kind of have like a nuanced view of what's going down here. And I know if I speak up, I'm just going to lose all my friendships. And unfortunately, I was dragged into a place where I felt like I had to speak up.
No, I get that. I don't think it can be blackmail categorically, because I don't think there was a threat in there.
No,
she just said she was gonna.
Legal. It's definitely not legal, like, prosecutable in court blackmail. It's just, the argument from the Dorites would be, well, after Jimmy's been beating up on you for weeks on your channel, on his channel, now all of a sudden you bring up this thing, which obviously you were okay with for years beforehand. But listen, I'm not saying that to defend Jimmy. I'm just telling you what the Dorite view of it was. From my perspective now, I'm just, from a personal perspective, it sucks, because I really do value Cenk, Anna, and I value Jimmy as a friend. But from a political perspective, I'm just happy that I have like no strings attached to any of them anymore, because from a political standpoint, I didn't agree. I mean, I obviously massively disagree with the editorial direction that Jimmy's show was going in, but I also had serious, issues with how TYT had been over the past 3, 4, 5 years, where they didn't really align with what I viewed as my values much anymore.
Right. It's just, I get that with the TIT politics. It's just, it felt like, I mean, when you're talking about like default charitability, it seemed like this got followed up with by like Jimmy Dore kind of bragging about the harassment. Apparently he lied about it, because Anna said there were like other comments and he was, like trying to embarrass her with.
That was my issue, Vosh. My issue is exactly what you just said. That's why in my segments where I talked about this, the biggest problem to me wasn't even the initial incident. The biggest problem was how he talked about it in the video, because he talked about it so like flippantly and glibly, while acknowledging that this is something that she really felt disgusted by and disrespected by and didn't like. And then now he's sort of like talking about it as and laughing about it. And it's like, well, nice news skirt. And it just struck me as like, this is not how an adult handles this situation, and it's gross, and I want nothing to do with it. And so at that point, for him to want me to come in and like white knight for him is like, fuck off. I don't agree with how you're acting here. I don't agree with how you're talking about this shit.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, kind of the almost like optimized to be the worst behavior possible. If you engage poorly in the past, I've got a big home for retribution in my heart. Or sorry, not retribution, rehabilitation. Wait, my bad. No, okay.
Both can be good.
Right, that wasn't a slip up. Rehabilitation, and I think there's a lot of room for people to change. With Dore though, it was like okay, so he's going after TYT for political reasons. Okay. Anna feels like, maybe DMs were leaked already. She's like, okay, well, fuck you. I'll just make it clear you did this to me. And he does this thing, like kind of laughing about it, playing it down, apparently being dishonest about it. It's for like monetizable content, and then accuses her of blackmailing. And it seems to me like categorically the way an abuser would get away with things for years, where you do stuff and then afterwards your immediate response is never reflection. It's always like minimize, invalidate, make jokes at the expense of this person, use my community to harass them, downplay, you know what I mean, like stigmatize, everything that you can do. And again, this is all inference here, I'm not saying he's some kind of criminal mastermind. It's just, I definitely sympathize more with the hurt from Anna, and I don't know much about Cenk really, but I guess from Anna, because from Jimmy Dore's side, it really just seemed like he was mad you weren't like his pawn or like his legionnaire, You know what I mean? Like you didn't go 100% in favor of Jimmy Dore, and then at the end of your video say you were donating to him as an apology for being on Earth when this happened to him. So he was going to spend the next week, calling you a liar and a traitor and a snake. And and I felt bad looking at it, A lot of people thought you were grifting, that you did that to appeal to Jimmy because Jimmy's also a huge channel. But to me, it's always come off, I guess, like, half you don't want to get involved in that way, and half I don't think you have like a natural predisposition for attacking people that are in your circle.
That's 100% correct. And let me just say this, for anybody who thinks that what I did was like calculated or there was an angle or something, I lost my friends because I told people exactly what I thought about the situation. And that's why I tried to stay out of it, because I knew if I tell people exactly what I think about this situation, they're all